Well, hi folks, it's spring, so it's time to do an oil change on the Cub Cadet LTX 1050. And as you can see, I already have the deck off. That's another video, but I just wanted to show you how to do an oil change, and this is the first one I've done with this because I've only had this for a year, bought it used, so we'll see how it goes. But this is the Kohler Courage 22 horsepower engine in this one. I know they have different engines, but I'm just going by what I've got here. So if that's what you've got or something similar, it should work the same. Your dipstick, of course, is here. And if you look down here, this is hopefully going to be easier than my old Cub Cadet 1811, because to change the oil in that, you had to take the deck off, jack it up, and crawl underneath it because it had a recessed oil plug on the bottom of the engine. Once you got it off, it drained quickly, but it's a real pain. So this might be a little easier. What they have done here, see if I can get you to see this way in under here, underneath the coil there, you can see that little yellow piece that's sticking out there and has a black cap on it right there. That's the oil drain plug. And I've seen some people, they put a hose onto that, or they keep the plug on and stick one of those manual pumps down the dipstick tube and pump it out that way. Well, that's pretty silly. I'm going to try to, and I'll let you know how it works. What I'm going to try to do is use this little piece of tube here. I'll stick it in after I pop the plug out, stick it in, and then hopefully I can get the oil to run out there, and then down to the ground I'll have my oil pan, oil collection pan. So according to the guide, I need 10W30 motor oil in there, so I've got, I think it's about 2 quarts it takes. Check and see when we actually do it. And this one also has a oil filter. It's over on this side of the tractor here. You can see the yellow oil filter there. That's just a spin off. So I'll drain the sump first and then pull this off second. This is just, if you're looking for parts, this is just a standard Kohler oil filter. It's a premium oil filter. Number on it is 5205002-S1. I think there's some variation with that last S and 1 with marketing, but it's basically all the same filter. It's kind of a standard filter for these kind of Kohler engines, so this will fit. It's just a screw on, as you can see. So that's what I'll be putting on after I do the change. So I'll come back to you and let you know how much of a mess popping that cap off that plug did, and to try to get the oil out. So all right, hang. Well folks, when I screw up, you get to see it, so you can avoid the same dumb mistake I just made. Made a nice mess here. As you can see in there's the oil hole, the fill hole, or the drain hole I should say, excuse me. And it oozed out, went all over everything, including down in here on my PTO clutch. So I've got a big mess to clean up. Here was my problem. Alright, this is what I could see sticking out. The black cap and the yellow plastic. What I couldn't, and again, I have no manual with this tractor, and there was nothing specific in the videos I saw on YouTube that helped me with this, so I was going blind. So I popped the cap and the oil came out. And I thought, okay, and I could look in a little bit. It looked like, all right, there's some kind of a pressure relief in there that it's not letting it come out. So I started turning on the yellow, thinking, okay, maybe that'll open something up. Nothing still happened. So I kept turning and turning until finally I unthreaded the whole oil plug. What I couldn't see, and if I'd had a manual I probably could have figured it out, is if you look on there, there is a slot that this thing fits into. And it's actually, let's see if I can do this one-handed or not, probably not. This slot has a little pin in it. See if you can see that better. And so what you're supposed to do is turn the yellow housing, the plastic housing, over, and then you can extend. Again, I probably won't be able to do it one-handed. No, of course not. And then this slides out, this pin goes in the slot, and that opens up the valve in there to let the oil come out where the cap is. If I'd been able to do that, I could have slipped my plastic thing over and had minimal problems. So I didn't know that, made a huge mess. Next time I do an oil change, I will just get a small piece of hose. Got to get the right diameter, slip it over this. You can see it's got ridges on it to hold the hose in place, and I should be able to properly drain the oil out without making such a big mess. I don't know why this oil plug wasn't in tighter. I could hand turn it. I didn't use a wrench on this, so I was just turning the, like I said, just turning the yellow here, and I unturned the whole thing. So whoever changed the oil last and this didn't put this in tight. There was a little bit of residue oil on there on the frame, and I thought, well, it's just a leak, you know, but it's probably because it wasn't in tight. So what I've got to do is let this thing completely drip out, get as much oil to drip off of the tractor parts down into the tray, and then I've just got to wipe everything down as best I can to get the oil off of places it shouldn't be. Still have to change the filter, of course, but I learned a lesson, and this is, I'll share with you. What you want to do is make sure that's tight. Just give this a turn. You just turn it maybe a half an inch here, a quarter of an inch, whatever this is, and then pull straight out on the yellow plastic. You want to have your hose attached to the end of the nipple here when you pop the cap off first, and then when you pull on that, that should start the oil coming out your hose and into your drain pan. So at any rate, my mistake. Hope that benefits you, and I will come back to you when everything is all put back together. Alright, I have my mess all cleaned up, and the oil has now been changed. I think it took a little bit less than 2 quarts. I can't remember exactly. But the dipstick is now full. The filter on the other side is changed, as I showed you before. So, and I have run the tractor, so it's running fine now. I did charge the battery up a little bit. So, lesson learned. Suggestion: with this stupid setup here, with this funky looking plastic valve, get yourself a short length of 1/2 inch flexible plastic pipe to put over the end there. Pull that cap off and stick it on there to drain it. I should have known that, and it probably says that in the manual. If you have one that you have a manual for, it probably says that, or maybe it even came with the tractor new, I don't know. But yeah, that'll save you a lot of mess like I just had. So there we go. We'll come back to you with putting the deck back on and getting ready to go. Alright folks, I thought I should show putting the deck back on the tractor, since this is such a complicated mess to do. It's just not easy, but I'll walk you through this. First thing, what you want to do is you're going to put the deck under the tractor from the right hand side here. And the reason is you don't have to slide that discharge chute through from the left side. It goes in easier. Second of all, you want to make sure that your lift harness bracket lever is all the way up, so that it's not in your way when you slide the deck underneath. You're going to be moving it up and down when you're putting it back together, of course, but for now that's the way you want it. Third thing is to make it slide under easier, turn your front wheels out like that so you have a bigger space between the front and rear wheels. After you get almost through, you may have to turn the wheels back the other way, but just to get it in initially, turn the wheels that way so that you have more room to work with. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through. It is basically a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 points that you've got to do. Of course, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the belt onto the power takeoff, or excuse me, the electric PTO clutch. pulley that's underneath there. Now remember, we already loosened it, the bracket, to be able to get the belt off when we took the deck off. So it's still loose here, you can see. So what we want to do is loop the, let's see if I can get the camera down here so you can see better. We're going to loop the belt around that pulley, and then we're going to reattach that bracket. That's our first step. Once the bracket's on tight, then the belt can't practically come off when you're manipulating and moving the deck around to catch the other connection points. So let me come back to you after we put the belt on. It's not real difficult to do. You just roll the deck forward, loop it over, and then put your bracket back on. Remember, there are two connections for that bracket. On this side there is a bolt that the threaded end of the bracket sticks through the frame. It's a 1/2 inch, excuse me, a nut, not a bolt, I'm sorry, a nut that the threaded end sticks through. You tighten that down. On the other side there's a bolt that goes up underneath into the frame and carries the loop in the bracket, pulls that tight. That's also a 1/2 inch, so you just need a 1/2 inch wrench for both of those. No big deal. I'll show you when they're in place, so I'll be back to you. Alright, if you look in there, you can see that the belt is, I don't know if you can see that or not, the belt is on the pulley, and this bracket is connected, and it is in right here, this notch in the PTO clutch, so that the PTO clutch can't spin. The bracket holds it in place. Again, the nut on this side, the bolt on the other side, so that's tight now. So now I'm ready for the next step. Next thing is to come back here. Hang on just. Alright, now we're underneath the right hand side near the rear tire here. You can see the connecting springs there, bolts there with spring loaded, and I'm going to drop from my lever here, I'm going to drop the lift arms all the way down. And then what has to happen is the bolt has to pull out on the bolt and put it into this hole here. There's also a little slot on the other side of this yellow bracket that the black lift arm has to slide down into. It's a little tricky to get, but I'm going to do this on this side, and it'll be the same way on the other side. There's one on the other side. If you have to raise or lower the lift arm slightly to get it to work, just manipulate it however you have to. Alright, I'll come back to you when that's... Okay, another problem here. I just love this deck. There's too much tension on the belt to get the brackets all the way back to the last hole. Okay, so what I ended up having to do to take the tension off the belt was through the tensioner here. I used my wire again like you saw before to release this spring. Now when I have everything else attached, the other hard points, I have to pull this back on using this wire to do that. I don't know if the belt is a little shorter or because it's a new belt it wasn't quite as stretched, but I just couldn't physically push it far enough that it needed to go. So that's what I ended up doing, and I do have now both of these rear brackets are attached on the lift cradle there the way they're supposed to be. Now the next step, and I've already partially done that because this is getting old, let me tell you, is this rear sway bar here in the back. You can see it there sticking through. Pull this down a little bit, you can see it's there when I pull it. I started with the deck all the way down just to get the head of that bolt through the hole, and then but I couldn't get it through enough to get the cotter pin in. So all I had to do is here pull the lever all the way up, and as you can see, I don't know if I can get the camera in there far enough, you can see it pulls it through the hole enough that you can now put your cotter, washer and cotter pin in. So this is your rear sway bar. Now after I put this cotter pin in, the only thing left to do will be to put the front sway bar on, which is easier, and then reattach that spring. So I'll come back to you. Okay, as you can see, the front sway bar is now attached. The easiest way is to thread it through the front, the L-shaped end, through the front hole, slide it in this way. Now, my problem was I still had the deck all the way up to attach the rear sway bar, but it wouldn't fit in the hole with it all the way up, so I had to drop the lift all the way down, and when I did that, then I had an easier time getting it in, and that little cotter pin type clip, oops, sorry, I have the camera sideways, cotter pin type clip goes in there. So now I have all my points attached, belt is attached, the bracket's attached, the two lift arms are attached, the rear sway bar, the front sway bar. Now all I have to do is use my my wire again to pull that tensioning spring back over the bolt that's sticking up, and you saw me do that in another video. I won't repeat it here. So this should have me all connected. I'll come back to you with everything running, assuming it works. All right, we are running, and mower deck works. Let's see how she mows. Grass out. Well, it is getting ready to rain here, so I'm going to get as much mowing done as I can. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let others know about our channel.